Okay, so you have probably, at least for a while now, heard about people wanting to switch to Linux, right? It's like the hot new thing, right? The thing is that, you've probably went out to Google, searched download Linux, and, seen about a billion different options, a billion different people telling you about a billion different stuff. And so you're like, what even is Linux? And so I'm going to explain it to you today, because it is not what you think. It is not an OS. It is just a kernel. And now you're probably wondering, what is a kernel? So a kernel is kind of just a core, not the full OS. It's like saying your nervous system is your entire body. It isn't, but it isn't, right? When most people say, I'm using Linux, or I'm switching to Linux, they're talking about Linux distros, or distributions, right? Linux distributions are basically, they use the Linux kernel, and they usually use a bunch of other components like Wayland, or GNU, or systemd. They're a story for another day, but basically, when you hear this is compatible with Linux, or this works with Linux, or I'm switching to Linux, think about Linux distros, right? Android uses the Linux kernel, but no, you're not going to run a Linux application. If you, not even if you're like rooted, and that's a story for another day, right? There are so many Linux distros, and most people can't even count them all, right? You can't count them all, right? And it gets many people confused, especially because some of them are very similar, some of them are not, some of them are, some of them are not. It is very, 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 very odd. So you're probably using Windows. This is not a Linux distribution, but I have to conclude it because the pros are everything is compatible, but the cons are privacy concerns, bloatware, AI crap, and so much more. It is kind of infuriating. So we got a few different options here. We got the classic distribution, right? Debian is very popular as a base. It's very stable, and there are a lot of options for stuff. The thing is, the cons are the installer is kind of, I don't know how to explain this to you, scary. If you're going to install Debian and you're a beginner, go with the graphics or the GUI option of the installer if you're that scared of text-based installers, right? It's not text-based like Arch, it's more like text-basedy, sort of like DOS installers or something. And the cons are that newer updates, newer upgrades, it takes some time, which is why it's stable, but it's still that. The cons are for Linux Mint, right? There's the pros and cons. It's my personal recommendation, but there are a few issues with it. The pros are it's very popular, it's very easy to use, and has very sane defaults, which basically means that a lot of the defaults on Linux Mint are very agreeable, right? They're not all over the place. The problems are a bit too similar to Windows, which leads some people to think of it in Windows terms, but just like how when you switch to Mac, things are very, very different. On Linux, you're going to have to rethink your entire structure. Also, unofficial Flatpaks are disabled by default, which is basically, most Flatpaks are unofficial. That means that they aren't provided by that. And after some security drama some time ago, there was a disabled of them, but don't worry, most of them are safe. You can enable them in settings, but it's a bit infuriating, and it leads to the software library looking way smaller. Next, we have the hard one, Arch Linux. It's very popular. You have full control, and the AUR, which is basically a big repository where anyone and anything can be put on there without vetting, but it are also some security risks. The cons are you are the installer, and not like I want to install this. Like, you have to do every step that the installer would usually do, right? On Windows, this is called manual installation. Most people don't do it, but on Arch Linux, it's kind of the fun. It helps you understand what Linux is, but it's a bit awful. But it's not the best for if you're just starting out. If you've gone from using Windows 11 to Arch Linux, right? And the cons are you have full control, right? You can mess things up very easily. Now you have the original starter OS, Ubuntu. It's very popular as an OS, which is very popular as a base, and there are many guides and overall support. The thing is that the Snap Store is very awful, and again, the software library for that, unless you're going to dig around, isn't good. Also, automatic updates, like, sometimes Windows just decides, hey, I want to update, and that can lead to problems, especially because of the fact that, again, the Snap store isn't really good. We also got Red Hat, an honorable mention. It is very popular for servers. There's a warranty, but it's open source, it's paid, it's basically only for servers. It's basically an honorable mention. Now we got Elementary. It's like Mac. It's very easy. There are many same defaults, and it's great for laptops, but it's a bit restrictive when it comes to some things, and it's like Mac, which isn't good for some people. In conclusion, Linux is a kernel, not an OS. OSs that use Linux are called Linux distros. Windows is bad, and we need something better, and Linux is great for starting, and there are many different Linux distros. I won't judge what Linux distro you're using unless you think that, I don't know, you need a gaming distro or something. Yeah, don't. You can install Steam and they'll basically work, especially since I think Proton, the compatibility layer, is working now by default. Overall, this is basically just the top of the iceberg. And in the next videos in this new channel, we will be exploring about what those are.